Time to re-up YouTube. I am back with the season preview, and as you can see, we have the Detroit Pistons coming in next on my list. Now, with the NBA season coming back within the next month, I decided to speed things up in the season preview, so you're definitely going to get some back-to-back uploads, maybe even some double uploads on some days, so stay tuned for that. But as I mentioned earlier, we got the Pistons coming in next on this list, and I have to say, as I look at this roster, there's a chance they may even be better than I'm projecting them to be. Because when I look at this team, even though I jumped the gun on them last year, I genuinely do believe they're gonna shock a lot of people with how good they actually are. I mean, top to bottom, this team is filled with potential, and I understand that potential is a very broad thing. Potential could range from a guy being a decent starter to a guy being a Hall of Famer. So to an extent, that word is kind of thrown around really loosely in the NBA community. But if I'm being honest, this team is truly filled with a lot of that. But the biggest reason why this team is in this position is obviously due to their #1 overall pick last season, and that was Cade Cunningham. I truly do think that Cade's pick in the draft was a culture changer for this organization that they've needed for a very, very long time. I mean, we're talking about an organization that has had 2 blips on their radar of mediocrity and trash. Obviously, that being the late 80s with the Bad Boy Pistons and the 2000s with Chauncey Billups, Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, and all those guys when they won the championship in 04 and beyond. Other than that, you have a bunch of bad years, and their best player in the 2010s you could argue was Andre Drummond, or you could throw in that 1 year of Blake Griffin. So it's safe to say that Cade Cunningham is the biggest step in the right direction for this team. But as much as I love Cade, let's talk about the supporting pieces around him, because those pieces matter a lot. For starters, let's look at the rookies that they took in this draft class, because I genuinely do think the Pistons, as I mentioned in my winners and losers video, they were one of the biggest winners of the draft this year. For starters, trading up to take Jalen Duren I thought was a tremendous opportunity for them. Jalen Duren is one of the better bigs I think in this draft class. He has the ability to defend multiple positions. He's very mobile on the perimeter, a good passer, and I think he could be a really versatile big for them. And when you look at their big man rotation, I think he fills in a lot of holes that they need in those positions. And even if he doesn't become some tremendous offensive player, I think his defensive contributions are going to be enough, especially if he can couple that with being a good lob threat. Because in this generation where pick and roll defense matters so much and switchability is always welcome, Jalen Duren is going to fit like a glove if he can live up to his potential on the defensive side of the ball. But when we talk about potential, even though I love Jalen Duren, we all know the biggest thing that the Pistons did in this draft was their 5th overall pick selection, Jaden Ivey. When you talk about athletic guards coming into the league, Jaden Ivey has to be one of the better ones that I've seen in a very long time. The guy can jump out the gym as a 6'4" shooting guard, and even though you could say that's a little bit undersized for the position, I think he's going to fit perfectly with Cade Cunningham in the backcourt. He has a strong frame even for a 6'4" guard. He has a 6'9", 6'8" wingspan, so that's a plus. Because of his speed, he's a terror in transition, great in the open court, can get pressure on the defense at the rim, and even when he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he's a great cutter and slips behind defenders very easily due to his speed. Even though I don't compare him to Ja as a player, he does remind me of Ja when he finishes at the rim. He just finds ways to contort his body no matter what. The only real concerns I have for him is if his 3-point shot is going to translate to the NBA level, because once you move that 3-point line a little bit back, shooting league average is a lot harder in the pros than it is in college. But the other concern I would have is his playmaking, but considering if he can put pressure on the defense consistently, it should open up avenues that are pretty easy for him to develop in that category. And considering that he's not going to be the primary initiator of offense, as that's going to be Cade Cunningham, he's not going to walk into a situation where he's forced to be the primary ball handler and decision maker. I truly do believe that him along with Cade is a perfect match. They make up for a lot of each other's weaknesses in many ways. And it's so crazy to think about, because going into the draft, a lot of people thought he should have been taken #4, but considering that the Kings had a lot of guards on their team, they obviously just went with Keegan Murray, the safe pick. But while we're on the topic of picks, remember that guy that was the 2nd overall pick ahead of Luka Doncic and Trae Young, Marvin Bagley? Yeah, he's on the Pistons now. And I don't say that to slight Marvin Bagley. I actually think he's going to be a really solid player for the Pistons. That's why I brought him up in this segment. Bagley, after he was traded to Detroit, actually played really solid for them, averaging 15 and 7 on 56% shooting from the field. Bagley was really effective effective in the pick and roll game alongside Cade Cunningham, a nice lob threat, and even just showed a little bit of flashes when it comes to his self-creation in the post. Now, does he still have his flaws with his jump shot being a little mid to pretty bad? Yeah. And is he still relatively a negative defender? Yeah. But considering that the Pistons have time on their hands to develop a lot of the weaknesses that these guys have, I would say that's a good thing for him. And throw in the fact that they have a heavy big man rotation of guys that are going to get heavy minutes like him, Isaiah Stewart, Kelly Olynyk, Jalen Duran. It's not like they're going to go out there and tell Marvin Bagley to put in 40 minutes a night. That's just not going to happen. So I do think Bagley's in a very good situation being on a team that has two guards that he can feed off of their own gravity while still giving the opportunity to work on his flaws, while a lot of the players around him can fill in those gaps. But while we're on the subject of picks that have gone wrong in NBA history, that leads me to the man, the myth, the legend himself, Killian Hayes. Now, I know a lot of Pistons fans see some bright future in Killian Hayes, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't see that shit no more. If you remember, I made a video about the Pistons last year being dangerous, and a big reason for that is my belief in Killian Hayes. But after watching literally the first game of the season, I knew I was immediately wrong about this guy. I'm not saying he's gonna be out the league and in China in 5 years, which, hey, it's not like that's out of the realm of possibility, but that's not what I'm trying to say here. The guy is a decent defender and an amazing passer, but unfortunately he has zero gravity to his game because he cannot score. He's unable to make layups, he's unable to make jump shots, he doesn't get to the free throw line often, he doesn't provide spacing. The guy has little to no real offensive value. I mean, he's been so inefficient that he has a career true shooting percentage of below 45%. That is atrocious and nasty. And to think that he was the 7th overall pick in a deep draft class that they could have had Obi Toppin, Denny, Tyrese Halliburton, Tyrese Maxey, Jaden McDaniels, or Desmond Bane. It really is insane just how bad Killian Hayes has been as a draft pick for them. But enough of the trash, let's actually get back to the good talent on this team, and that brings me to Isaiah Stewart and Sadiq Bay, two guys that have been on this roster the last couple of years and developed in a pretty solid way, I would say. Despite being known for almost fighting LeBron James, Isaiah Stewart is actually a really solid big in the league that's pretty underrated as a rebounder, I would say. I mean, think about it, in 25 minutes a night, the guy averaged over 3 offensive rebounds a game. If you look at his per 36, that's almost 5 rebounds a game on the offensive glass. And for a 6'8" center, that's pretty impressive. Now, I get that there are some disadvantages with his size, primarily on the defensive end, even though I don't think he's a bad defender by any means, but I do still realize it's give and take with the guy that's 6'8" as a center. Not everybody in the league is going to be Draymond Green, but I do believe there is a lot of potential on the defensive side of the ball, even despite his size limitations. As I mentioned earlier, with the big man rotation that they do have, I think he's going to fit perfectly with any big that they throw on the court with him, and alongside Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, I think he's going to take advantage of the opportunities that they present to him offensively. And I also feel the exact same way about Sadiq Bay. Sadiq Bay started off the season last year in a rough shooting slump, but he got things together in the second half of the year, shooting over 35%. And we're not talking about 1 or 2 threes a game here. We're talking about a guy shooting 36% on 8 attempts in the second half of the season. And sure, he's not some amazing shot creator, but he can actually put the ball on the floor a little bit better than people think he can. And on a team that already has 2 threats on the perimeter in Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey getting immense pressure at the rim, and Cade Cunningham just simply being Cade motherfucking Cunningham, that leaves a lot of room for him to get great looks on the 3-point line, and hell, we might even see him create a little bit more often for himself because he's not going to be guarded by the better perimeter players usually. That's going to be on Cade and Jaden. And with less of a load offensively this upcoming season, with guys like Duran and Jaden Ivey joining the team, I expect even more effort on the defensive side of the ball. So when you look at the supporting pieces around Cade Cunningham, I genuinely do think that it's not only young and nice, but you have some veterans as well that can contribute some solid minutes. Diallo is a nice athletic wing that can give you some effort defensively, and speaking of effort defensively, Nerlens Noel is a really good shot blocker in the front court. Alongside him, you have Kelly Olynyk that can space the floor, a real stretch big, and though none of those names are eye-catching, it's still really solid to have those guys on the team, not only for veteran experience, but when you have certain lineups that look a little bit clunky, they're gonna make them a lot better with their experience. For any young rebuilding team, it's always nice to have some vets that can fill in those gaps. This team from top to bottom, I don't think is a playoff team, but I do believe is a lot better than people are giving them credit for. And obviously the biggest reason is because I think Cade Cunningham is going to take a massive jump next season with this roster. Cade last year was one of the best rookies in the league. You could argue the best rookie at a point in time in the season, as in the last 20 games of the year he averaged 21 points, nearly 7 assists and 6 rebounds, a steal and a half, shooting 46% from the field and 83% at the free throw line. Cade has the size to be a really good combo guard and wing, forward, hybrid, whatever the hell you want to call it in today's league. He's damn near positionless on the wing. Standing at 6'6" with a 7-foot wingspan gives him a lot of flexibility, not only offensively but obviously on the defensive side of the ball to defend multiple positions. And speaking of the defensive end, he gave a lot of energy on that side of the ball last year. Whether it's hustle, diving for loose balls, good mobility on the perimeter, staying in front of his man, his lateral quickness, all of those things, he showed a lot of potential on that side of the ball. And with what I've seen in the offseason, it looks like he's put on a lot of weight, so that's going to help him on the defensive end and offensive end obviously. He's a very patient player in the half court. He doesn't try to do too much. He's very good in the pick and roll as the ball handler. He may settle for threes a little bit too often and he's not that efficient from there. At least at the second half of the year he wasn't too efficient from there, but he was a rookie and I think his three-point shot is actually going to be one of the better parts of his game moving forward next year. The man was being hit with a lot of double teams last season and he was still taking advantage of it, finding open men consistently on that team. He's great at attacking the basket and getting rim pressure on the defense, so along with Jaden Ivey, I expect them to be collapsing that paint in to free up the guys on the perimeter. And because of his high basketball IQ, I think he's going to work like a glove with guys like Jalen Duran, also Marvin Bagley, Isaiah Stewart, and in the case of a guy like Kelly Olynyk, I think he's going to fit perfectly with him when he plays some minutes alongside Cade because of his ability to stretch the floor in the front court. Cade is really the glue that's going to keep this team together because he fits with every single person on the roster on both offense and defense, and as the face of the franchise, that's exactly what you want out of him. He really is the ultimate team guy, and I think that next season he's going to take leaps into being a top 10 player at his position and borderline all-star caliber player, and I can even see him superseding those expectations. The sky truly is the limit for Cade Cunningham as soon as next season. And to think that this guy is going to be 21 years old at the start of the year, oh my goodness, this guy's amazing. No cap. I'm not trying to me-ride, but he really is. And I think that when you couple his potential jump next year with the roster around him, I think the Pistons are going to do a lot better than people think. They may not be a playoff team, and hell, they may even end up back in the lottery next year, but you're going to see those flashes from these young guys coupled with what Cade's gonna do, and sooner rather than later we're gonna be talking about the Pistons the same way people are talking about the Cavaliers now. Are they the best young core in the league? They're gonna be in those convos. So look out for Detroit next year because I truly do believe they're gonna be not only one of the more interesting young teams in the league, but it's gonna be a sign of things to come in the league's future. But you guys let me know your opinions down below in the comment section. Do you think I had the Pistons too high? Do you think I was too low on them? Do you agree or disagree with the things I said about some of the players on the roster? Let me know down below. This is your boy Young Mustard signing out. Make sure you follow me on social media. The links are down below. You guys stay safe and have a blessed day. Peace.